Alright, so in this video we are going to be talking about your digestive system and what we're going to be doing to help that. Now remember that the gut is critical to overall health. Up to 90% of your serotonin production, which is your feel-good neurotransmitter, up to 90% of that happens in the gut, and about 60% of your immune system occurs in the gut, not to mention just the assimilation of nutrients and the digestion of food and so on and so forth. So the basic digestion pattern is the food comes down the esophagus, goes into the stomach. Once the food gets into the stomach, your body increases hydrochloric acid production to break down that food, and then when the food breaks down, it exits into the small intestines. Your liver sits over here. Your liver is involved in detoxification of the blood sugar stabilization, and so on. We'll get into that if we're going to talk about liver with you. The liver forms bile, which is then stored in the gallbladder, which then squeezes in the presence of this food coming out and in the presence of the hydrochloric acid. When the food comes in, the gallbladder squeezes this bile in to help break down the food as it's going through the digestive process. And then the digestion, you take the small intestines, and remember that you have the small intestines is made up of a bunch of individual cells butted up against each other like this. And those cells come down and the food continues to break down and break down. Eventually it goes out through these tight junctions, gets into the bloodstream, and that's where we have the assimilation of the nutrients. So this is the process that happens. Now, on the back end, you get down to the large intestines. This is the small intestines that weaves through. Then you get into the ascending and descending colon and into the rectum, and then you have your fecal matter that excretes everything out. So this is a big filtration system to get everything through the body. And then you excrete the waste through the fecal matter. Okay, so that's the process. Now this down here, this is where we look at probiotic issues. We're not getting into that right now unless you're already on probiotics, but we're not worrying too much about that right now because we're worrying more about this upper part, the small intestines, and the actual digestion of the food and the assimilation of the nutrients. So we have to make sure that this gut lining is intact, and we have to make sure that your body is breaking down the food properly starting at the stomach level. So there's a couple ways we do that. Hydrochloric acid levels, we support that with a supplement called Zypam, which also has pancreatic enzymes in it to help break down the food even more and help the stomach get some healing and help the stomach really start processing things better. We also might use a supplement called Gastrovin and Premier HCl, and Premier HCl Activator. Okay, so we'll pick the supplements that are best for you based on your system, based on where you are, and how we need to get in there and address the hydrochloric acid aspect if you have hypochlorhydria, which is low hydrochloric acid. So those are the supplements that we use for hydrochloric acid. Then, once the food starts to exit into the small intestines, that's where you have the other aspects of things. So we'll use a supplement called Premier Digest or Ochrapepsin E3. Ochrapepsin E3 is the one that I really love to use for this. Now, the special directions on Ochrapepsin E3 are you need to take that an hour away from food, so either an hour before or an hour after. The reason I really like this supplement is because what happens is the ochre becomes sticky. So when it's coming through the digestive tract, it'll actually bind to the biofilm that forms along that small intestinal lining when you have these kind of things going on. So it binds to it. The pepsin in the ochrapepsin breaks down the protein bonds of the biofilm, so it'll start to slough off. And then the E3 goes in and starts to soothe that intestinal lining. So we're starting to break down, expose, and soothe that intestinal lining. And then we use another supplement called Dermatrophin PMG. And what that does is help to rebuild that gut lining. So we're addressing the hydrochloric acid, we're soothing and exposing the gut lining to be able to be healed, and then we use the Dermatrophin PMG to rebuild that gut lining. All of this will help with digestion. It'll help with preventing or recovering from leaky gut syndrome, especially when combined with diet, and it's going to help that entire digestive process. If you are on a probiotic, again, that's handling the large intestinal aspect down here to make sure that your colon, your bacterial colonization of the colon are in good condition. So that's how we process the gut lining. Now, there's another supplement that we might use called Gastrex. and that's for patients who might be suffering with heartburn. It helps to aid digestion, and it's got some bentonite and clay in it to help relieve the symptoms of heartburn while we're aiding and healing the digestive tract. Okay, so if you have any questions about any of this, be sure to get with your health coach, and hopefully this makes perfect sense.